Hello, everybody, and welcome to the November 8th, 2022 iteration of the Kubernetes SIG-Windows community meeting. As always, these meetings are recorded and uploaded to YouTube, so be sure to adhere to the CNCF Code of Conduct. All right, let's get started. A pretty light agenda today, but we were just discussing, I think we can add a few more, there's a few things to discuss. First announcement is code freeze is tonight. I think it's 5 p.m. PST. So if there's some PRs that need to get in, let's try and get those merged. Next, we can see if there's anybody new here, we can, or does anybody else have any announcements? I think everybody's probably just tracking for that code freeze. All right, next we can see if there's any new contributors here or anybody wants to say hi. We'll pause for a minute if there is. Either, add your name to the agenda. Feel free to just say hi, say something in the chat. Oh, okay. Jay, did you want to give a quick update? And then we can look at the node service log viewer stuff that Arvin's adding.
Yeah. I after back and forth SIGNet and SIGArch for the KPNG stuff, I'm thinking we're going to propose a kubeproxy library implementation that takes maybe 60 or there's no percentage, some of the core library like functionality in KPNG for the proxy, and make that a separate repo, and then different folks can vendor it how they want to make custom kube proxies however they want, right? So I think that sort of kind of renews the conversation of what we want to do for Windows. Do we want to keep the kernel space in tree proxy, or do we want to consider taking that library and building our own that we maintain our own? So I still have that mailing list thread up. And so if folks have opinions, please leave some comments in there so we can think about what we want to do for the future.
I know like some of the other CNIs are either doing their own implementation of kubeproxy in their own solutions. I haven't looked enough, but if any of them are supporting Windows, would they use the same library, or would it really just be a SIG-Windows kubeproxy that would be consuming that?
It would be there's definitely people outside of this direction is actually proposed by people outside of the Windows community for sure. So because I was kind of like all in YOLO, like let's just burn everything to the ground, and I just wasn't able to sell that. So the middle of the road solution that's being proposed by some folks actually over at Red Hat is that, look, let's just take the parts that allow you to build your own proxy and now let everybody go off and build their own proxies. So we don't have to have some big monolith that just continues growing in tree, but also at the same time that we do that, like, what I mean, let's make it so that eventually the in-tree kube proxy can, if we want at some point, possibly start to adopt some of that. But part of the deal that's going on here is the biggest part, most important thing in the in-tree proxy is IP tables, which is now deprecated. So within the next 2 or 3 years, the most important parts of the in-tree kube proxy are not even going to be supported anymore. Like Red Hat has moved off of, I don't even know if Red Hat even ships support for IP tables anymore. I think it's all, I think they use IP tables NFT. But I don't know. So it's kind of going to be a weird, slow death type thing, I think, maybe. I'm not sure. But yeah, all the CNIs are doing their own thing as well. And I'm not sure. Obviously, we're kind of in a chicken and the egg situation where nobody's going to adopt it until somebody adopts it. So the goal here is to get SIG Network to adopt and fully endorse something. And the easiest way to get SIG Network to fully endorse something is to make that thing as small as possible, of course, right? Because it reduces the technical commitments. So that's why we're going the library approach.
Okay, sounds good. Does anybody have any comments or questions for Jay on this?
I'll have a link to the thread that I wanted folks to comment on also in the doc.
Yeah. All right, sounds good. Arvin, do you want to discuss this? Do you want to share your screen?
What would you like me to share, Mark?
Or I don't know. I don't know if there's anything to share.
Yeah,
But
you can open the PR. I can give a quick overview of what has happened. I got a review from Tim Hawken on Friday, and there are a bunch of changes he's requested. Most of them are doable, but there are two big ones that have basically blocked the PR. One is, again, the question of whether this needs to be a V1 PR, V1 API, or a V1 Alpha 1 API. During the last go around, a couple of releases ago, I got direction from Jordan saying that you cannot make this a V1 Alpha 1 because it's hard to version. So you basically need to make this a V1 PR. And in fact, we have to get it right the first time because apparently it's hard to change the API once it's there. Even if, so for example, if you want to make a V2 API, it's very hard to do. And to be frank, I don't fully understand the complexity of API machinery to grok this at the level Jordan has. But during this go around, Tim Hawken is asking why we can't make this a V1 API, V1 Alpha API. So going back to where we were before. So I'm kind of okay, I don't know what to do here. This is not my area of expertise. I need someone from the API reviewers to actually, help out here. And we've tagged Jordan a couple of times, but I haven't heard anything from him. The other request that Tim has made is, so I hope you folks remember the demo I showed you where there's a query command, there's a query flag that we add to kubectl for node logs, and then you say, query foobar. And if it's just a plain foobar, I assume it's a service, and I show you the service output. If it is /foobar, I assume it's a file, and I show you the file. But Tim wants the heuristics to be a little bit more involved. He wants us to say query foobar, and foobar could be a file, and I should go and show the file. I don't see the reason for doing this. It's getting to a stage where it's if someone wants to see foobar.log, it's obvious that they know that it's a file. I don't see many people having a log file called foobar. But so this is the other thing that he wants. I mean, given these two things, I don't think this PR will make it in this time around. The other changes I could easily make. They're not that difficult. But the API and this sort of makes it a bit difficult.
Can you show us the foobar one again? I didn't get that fully.
I think I even commented, and I saw you comment asking if that could be if that would block an alpha implementation. Did Tim respond to that?
No,
I don't
nothing.
Think, I don't think it should.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Seems,
can you just show us in detail so I can leave a comment?
So
and then people can just yell at me.
This is the comment, right?
Yeah, that's the comment. Yep.
Hold on. We know that some query values are files.
Let me send you the link, Jay. I know it'll be hard to find this because this PR has some.
This PR's been open since 2020. I'm dropping a link in the chat.
Okay. Thanks.
And then where's the discussion around the V1 Alpha 1? I want to see what Jordan was trying to say, saying it's hard to version this, because I do know that.
So I can point you at that. So if you look at my comment, I basically linked. this is,
Because I do agree that if we can, it probably makes sense to have it be a V1 API. Is it because we're adding types to a V1 API that we can't add V1 alpha 1 types to a V1 API, or?
yeah, he was saying that this is on the same, it's in the same space as like the pod logs, which I think has the same issue. That's what I understood from Jordan's comment, like I don't know, months ago. So the interesting
But
bit is, right, when I,
okay, so the query, so is he saying that the call being made by kubectl alpha is not versioned?
no, I don't think he really cares about, I don't think he cares about what's happening in kubectl. It's mainly in the API side. I've said this is a V1 API.
Yeah.
That is where the contention is, whether that should be V1 or, so now it's under, I think I added it to core V1. Again, it's because Tim told me to add it to core V1. There's another comment where I've asked him, like, I need direction here. Should I add it to node or should I add it to core?
I mean,
And
Jordan said to add it to core V1 here too.
correct. So I added it to core V1. Like I can go back and add it to V1 alpha 1. I like it's not something I can't do because that's how I started. But then Jordan mentioned this, but now we're back to the same spot again. So that's where, you know, it's already what? It's 12:45 Eastern. So like what? I have 4 hours. And the other problem here, folks, is this PR has changed so much. So like now I'm worried that, so I got approvals from the CLI and the node, from SIG CLI and SIG node. And now I'm worried, okay, are those approvals like not valid anymore because so much has changed in this PR?
Yeah. So let's maybe take a step. Uh-oh. I think my browser froze because this PR is too big. Oh, I will wait. What? Like, I was gonna say, should we? We don't have to do it at this meeting, but should we take a step back and see, like, what we can do to try and get this to merge? Because I think clearly with the approaches that we've been taking is not getting all of the review attention that we need here. Is it really that and I'm just asking, it might be the case, like these API reviews are coming in too late to react with things, and it seems like that is the case because I know that this PR has been iterated on for most of this development cycle. And then there's these big questions that have already been discussed, like in a previous release happening here. Or is it that there's, or I mean, that can be part of it. Is it that the PRs are too big? Is there a way to split it up so it's like we just do the API changes and then have people review that? But I think that can have a risk of, if too much changes with the API changes, like we need to have the implementation for the other things also evolve with the PR. But
yeah, so that's what I was mentioning to you on the chat yesterday, Mark, is like, I feel like anytime you're introducing an API into Kubernetes, it seems like you just need to introduce the API and not the implementation. But I've not seen that happen.
But then you can't prove, like,
yeah,
I've
what do you
also
prove, right?
could see people want to see how it's implemented and would want
Yeah.
to see the other PR. So I don't know if it's, you need to maintain 2 sets of PRs.
Yeah. And in fact, so, and it's very hard to maintain those 2 sets of PRs. Like I've done that in other projects and it's super, like you have to keep pulling from another place. There's lots of Git magic you need to do, but it's doable. It's not like, it's not impossible. It's doable. But you know, it's especially in this review cycle, right? Like, so if you take about it, this has been going on for a while. The last release, I was not even around. I was on paternity. I was not even around. Couldn't do any work. But this release cycle, I made sure that I was ready very early on for API review. And I kept pinging Jordan and Tim and never got any response, right?
Yep.
So my fear is, right, like every time we go switch over to a release, I can again, like, I'm not sure how to resolve this. Like, do we get them on a call? Do we have a meeting with them? I'm just
I was actually gonna say, I think that might be the next step, is either bring this to the API machinery review or ask for like a half an hour breakout Zoom meeting with them. And I think with like everybody involved, so that we can discuss this and then say like, okay, are enough stakeholders here that if any other reviewers come and suggest a change, we can say, no, this has already been reviewed by a panel
Yeah.
and we're going this route.
Yeah, I did that twice. We just, sometimes it's just better. It's easy to, if you can get Tim on the phone, and that'll be great, I think.
But it's like, from what I'm hearing, it seems like we need Tim and Jordan on a phone.
Yeah.
And we need Tim and Jordan on a phone, or like on the same call, to agree, because they're giving conflicting information potentially.
But I think Tim and Jordan, I think they're hallway buddies. Like they'll walk by each other in the hall sometimes.
Don't they both work remotely from different areas?
Yeah.
Maybe that was pre-COVID. I don't know.
No. Jordan is in Raleigh. Tim, I don't know where he is. I know Jordan is in Raleigh.
Oh, okay.
Maybe pre-COVID. Yeah, I thought Jordan mostly works from home, but yeah. Okay.
Okay.
What I'm hearing is, I think the big blocker here is the V1 alpha versus the V1 part of it. The other part is a little bit of a, like, it's alpha. We could probably fix that and resolve it for the next version, but we need to get Tim and Jordan on the same page as to whether or not this goes into alpha or V1. And having either a Slack thread with the two of them in it or a phone call is probably the best way to go. Is this something that we can start today and then apply an exception for this, since it's a alpha with a low risk and mostly there?
I think that if we can get something scheduled with Tim and or Jordan, we could probably do that. But my concern with that is, even if we get an exception, we're not going to get that API review in time. But
For the really quick, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, let's start a Slack thread today. Do you want to do that, Arvind, or do you want me to do that in the API channel? And can you tag at least me and probably Jay and James too, and see if we can get Tim and Jordan to discuss anything or be open to a meeting. And then say that we would like to, like, if we can resolve that, which API version to put it on, I'll file an exception request for this feature to try and get some momentum.
This is the API reviews channel.
Sure. I'm not sure exactly which one, but
yeah, I think it's API reviews.
Yeah, let's do it on the API reviews since it's mainly there.
All right, I can start a thread. We'll see where it goes.
Okay, it seems like the big holdup is really the API review, and that just comes way too late in the cycle.
I mean, and for the heuristic one, I mean, I'm reading this. It's like, is it hard, Arvind, to just say if there's a slash, it's a file, otherwise it's service? That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, that's what I've done.
I think that's logical. Like I've seen plenty of programs in the past that say, you have an absolute path or not. I think it's
like,
that's
I don't
the
see
type of logic.
So if we do what Tim is asking for, it's going to make it way more complex, because what I have to then do is I have to wait till I hit the node, try and look for a service. If I don't find a service, look for a file, and then
no slash, no file. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
You want to do no slash, no file.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That totally makes sense. I mean, I get, you could do better things. You could do more complicated things, but I think it makes enough sense.
Yeah.
To at least be able, I think Tim should be okay if we just let him know that we think it makes sense. Maybe he's just calling it out as, hey, double check this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can again add to that comment and just say I thought about this a little bit more.
Yeah,
and
I
the
just
level
added
of,
that. Yeah.
okay, all right. I'll add some
Even
more. So
even from an end user perspective, I think it makes sense to like put a slash in front of something that I think is a file. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. And I think like this should sound like the perfect candidate of, let's get the implementation out there and then wait for feedback. Or like say we can address that for feedback. And even if we have to update the KEP to say we will, commit to doing that either before beta or before stable.
Yeah.
People aren't going to get feedback if code
if it's not out there.
people aren't going to give feedback, I should say. Yeah.
All right. So action items is I'll add another comment to what Tim said about the slash, and then I'll start a thread in API reviews and see where we can go from there.
Yeah. And just, I don't know if this is any consolation, but there are like this PR is not alone in this class of issues. There's another one that's been going on in SIG-Node for not quite as long, but definitely 3 releases for in-place pod vertical auto scaling that I think it's kind of the same issue. I don't think it's all API reviews holding it up. It's some SIG-Node reviewers too, but they seem to be stuck in this cycle of doing a bunch of work and then reviews not coming in until the end and then it missing a release. I am planning on bringing this up at one of the chairs and TL's meetings to see if there's something that we can do either with SIG architecture or contributor, Contribx to figure out what the best way, like to brainstorm how to get these big PRs actually merged instead of sitting there forever.
No, that makes sense. Yeah.
I think the best thing to do is what we're doing, which is getting Tim or whoever on the phone. And just because usually it's pretty simple. Because we had to do that for KPMG too, Arvind. Like it was back and forth and it's been out for 2 years. And finally we just got Tim on the phone and we figured that actually what he was saying wasn't that different than what we were talking about. We just were talking
Yeah, we
on
can
GitHub
do that.
is
But
just
I think what
GitHub is just
Mark-
a really stupid way to talk. It's like
Yeah.
really hard to talk on GitHub, right? But yeah.
Yeah, I think what Mark is talking about is, I mean, we can solve this in this instance by getting him on a call, but like you cannot do this on a regular basis, right? You just
I actually think we should. I think we should just talk more. Like
no, I
don't understand.
agree, but I agree, but I
Yeah.
think what Mark is talking about is there needs to be a way to scale this better. Like if Tim has to get on a call with I don't know with 50 different people and 50 different PRs, it's not scalable, right? That's what I think Mark is going
Tim's
towards.
the gatekeeper for the PRs at that point, which is not healthy for Tim or the project.
Yeah.
And I do remember for the host process containers, I think I tried, like, I think that the same thing happened, but it only slipped one release with the API reviews came in late without time to address anything. But I remember running into that issue too, where, I mean, it's kind of like hurry up and wait to address this feedback and hope that they get a chance to re-review before code freeze, which usually doesn't happen. Okay,
Yeah, it could be a broader problem than
Ye-
I get that it could be a broader problem. I just don't care about broad problems. But you're right, it is a broad problem. But at least in this case, I think you're on the right track here, Arvind. This is awesome, and thanks for sticking with it. This is great.
No, we'll, whatever happens, I'm going to stick to this to the end till I don't know. Tim comes and says, "I don't want to see this."
You're gonna die on
the
this
PR.
note long.
But I'll tell you, when we were presenting this at the SIG-Windows talk, you couldn't see the people in the front row, but they were watching your demo and their faces were like, wow, that's really cool.
They're like, yeah, this would be useful for other things.
Yeah, exactly. So
Awesome. That is really, I'm glad to hear that at least somebody's happy seeing this.
We're all happy. This is great.
All right, we will get it in one way or the other.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
mean, selfishly, it helps us all take Windows a lot more seriously. The fact that you can do this, right? On both nodes, it's helps us all, you know.
I mean, it's just not Windows, right? It even helps with Linux. So it's
Mhm.
it helps. It's one of the cases where we can say, hey, we started this in SIG Windows and we are helping Linux also.
This is one of the things we did that actually made, yeah, it actually made Linux better. How normally we're making everything more complicated by adding a bunch of Windows shit.
Got some problems, Jay. Yep. Yeah. All right. I saw Jay linked this. I do need to drop for Signode in a minute or two to also go and nag on some other PRs. So I'm not going to start another big conversation right now, but you guys can discuss if you want. I'll hop on for 2 minutes or stay on for 2 minutes.
Yeah, and before we move, I just want to thank everybody for their support with this. So I feel well supported by the SIG Windows group. Thank you, folks.
Thanks.
We're good at that. We're
Yeah, thank
good,
you.
like emotional support group. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I
I
just need
have to
someone.
drop too. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. I don't have much here, and I actually also have to go. But yeah, if folks, I think it would be a lot of fun, and we could move faster and build a better kube proxy community around the Windows stuff if we moved it out of tree. So I've put this thread on the mailing list. If anybody has strong opinions one way or other, please leave them, even if you disagree with me. Because
Let's just do that.
Yeah.
Let's just go out a
Yeah.
tree.
I think we just
Let's-
need to make sure, like David and Servant, who own HNS and like internally, are on board as well. I think that's my
Yeah.
biggest.
If
We need to get
David
their buy-in.
and or Servant or Zappa are on board, let's just do
Okay.
it.
Okay. So if you feel that way, or if you don't, just if you could leave a comment in that thread so I can have
Right.
some official paper trail that at least
Yeah.
one other person thinks this isn't a totally horrible idea.
Okay. Can you
And I'm
ping me
okay
in
with the-
like
the
90
opposite,
minutes,
yeah.
Jay?
I'll
'Cause
remind you. I'll remind you. Yeah.
Okay. I'll do that today, but I have a feeling if I don't get reminded in 90 minutes, I'm gonna forget.
No, I'll come. I'll hunt you down. It's fine.
See ya.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
But
Bye, folks.
stop.
Bye.